Let's see, these should have already been coming in from the invite in the beginning. Fine. John Babin was one of the ones that was trying to get in, right?
Yep.
They're already saying they're going to watch, so they're seeing it. Oh, there's somebody.
Okay, so that seems to be working.
Hi, Jonathan.
How you doing?
So did you see the link somewhere that you were able to get in? Your sound. I don't think we hear you. I don't, Jonathan, we're not getting any audio from you. No, it's still nothing, Jonathan. Okay, good. They're coming in.
Okay.
Now we share this link. Not too. We hear somebody.
Got two on.
No, nobody watching.
Here, someone's got a mic.
I believe it's this person right here. That was the school that asked us a lot of questions last time, I believe. So, Jonathan, can you hear us? Okay. Make sure it shows up in the community.
So that just showed up here.
Let me delete this one. This one.
Huh?
They're going to click this expecting to watch. That's why no one's watching right now.
Okay.
Got 0
Sorry,
viewers.
can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
No, it's either get rid of it or that's it.
Okay, yeah, we can kill it. All right, so we should have only the active posts available on the Hangouts on the community page now.
Hopefully they'll get it. What if I share it with... No, I don't want to do that. I want to get them in first.
All right. I don't have any viewers, but looks like we got one more.
Yeah. Hi, it's Matt from QUT here.
Oh, how you doing?
Good.
We've got like 5 interactive. Let's see, and on the so we restarted the Hangout, and we seem to have the ability to allow people in again, but the we're waiting for some folks to join back in on the new version, the new link.
Okay, we're getting.
Right,
We're trying to get
people trying to
viewers.
show up.
I would say continue.
So we're going to continue.
Recording.
Just going to reiterate one of the things we
Sorry, can I just say I never got another invite either in my inbox. I just found the one that you sent me directly.
Oh, well, right. We sent you another one directly.
Okay.
You sent me one directly, but I thought you went to the community as well. I didn't get one through that.
That's interesting. Wonder why it didn't go out that way.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. Looks like we've got one on the viewing side, so then I guess it eventually did go out to the community at some point. Yeah, I'm seeing it over here on the community. So I'm not sure what changed.
We'll blame Google. Well, I'd say continue. We got 2 viewers. They're starting to come in.
Okay, they're starting to come in. All right. So as I was saying before we switched over, I want we've since the May 9th update of the rules has been a requirement for a shipping plan to be out from the teams to us. That's still in effect. We're trying to make sure we get that kind of information. At the minute, we need as much as you can give us on what your plan is, your plan dates, what you plan to ship, how much weight, size, things like that, so we can work with the facilitator that we've been trying to set up in Singapore to bring all the gear in and hopefully get everything through customs without any issues. So that date is still August 1st, which is, I believe, next Friday. So we need to get that kind of information from you. So just go ahead and hopefully you've got most of that together. And if there's things that you need or that you're missing, make sure you let us know as soon as possible. I've seen some posts about the address. I believe that is coming out. We've finally got that information. So they're fine, this morning actually. And so we're trying to get that out, turned around, and pull to get all the little pieces pulled together into something we can send out hopefully very soon. I know that does affect your ability to send it. We're working on that as well. And so part of that will include when you need to ship it out in order to have it on site in time for the event. And so that's going to be a key. One of the I'll shift over unless if there's any questions on that first.
Sorry, I just for clarification, please. The exact information, we're still trying to determine our shipping company. We know the size and everything like that, but do you need to have a shipping company as well on the first?
If you can give, if nothing else, if you can give us the options you've got, and then ideally what you're looking at for price, that's the type of, so you've got a couple options of what your price is and which one you prefer and why would be useful.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. So we're trying to see, can we're setting up a customs facilitator, basically a freight forwarder to work this, and so we want to see if they have any insight on one that might work better with them or be easier to work with. So there's a lot of moving parts here we're trying to tie up. So yeah, if you've got multiple, that's fine too. Well, they include the companies and the cost estimates you have.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions on the shipping plan right now?
Do we have an idea when the Singapore end details will be finalized?
So we've got all of it in a couple documents right now. We're trying to merge it all together so it's not as confusing. I'm hoping, and I've got my fingers crossed on that. I went ahead and pulled a lot of it together into a first draft, and submitted that to the AVSI Foundation, who's leading that effort to kind of help pull it together. It's mostly based on our trip there and some recent interactions. I'm meeting with them again first thing next week. The Singaporean representatives, so we'll see if we can get all that done within the next few days. That's what we're shooting for. And I realize it does have an impact on your ability to get information to us, but we're trying to get as much as we can to help make that a little bit better. But there will be a single point of contact and a single shipping address for all the systems. The plan is for the freight forwarder to collect everything, store it all in a single location, have it on site at the competition venue, the stage there ready for all the teams to receive and unpack on the first day that we allow everyone on the platform.
Is the first day the 18th?
So that was, I received an email, and I'm trying to remember who sent that now, about that, and trying to work out some schedule conflicts. What we're looking at is the 18th is a Saturday. Originally, we were looking at the 18th as having an orientation session, and the night of the 18th, and then Sunday morning, all the teams could go to work and start working on there. We worked out the extra days with the facility. I think what we might end up doing is maybe some kind of social event if we can set it up on the 18th, and then the first technical directors meeting will be first thing Sunday morning. And I think that should help some of the teams who are having trouble with the extra days. It also gives everyone a little bit more time on the water, a little bit more time to practice, which is always a good thing. And so what we'll do is we'll have we're planning to have an orientation session. I've got it set for about 2 hours right now because we're going to do a full walkthrough of the facilities, include all the safety, all the rules in the area that we have to make sure everyone's aware of, as well as allow time for the teams to ask questions. So we're leaning towards Sunday morning, the 19th, for that. And after that session is over, we'll release the teams to have access to the craft, or to their packages in their team tents with power and everything to start assembling and getting ready to go in the water, with the goal of allowing teams in the water as soon as possible, hopefully later that day, if the teams are ready to go.
I have just thanks for considering. That was me that sent the email regarding not being able to make 18. The other one is just regarding the safety induction. For teams, should we all be wearing closed-in shoes, high-vis vests, and things like that around the site? Like, is there any, or can we get around in flip-flops, or what's the deal?
That's a good question. I'm going to expect that at least closed-toed shoes would be recommended, especially for the folks running near the cranes or near the where the vehicles are being moved around. So that the hosts are providing carts for each of the teams. So there'll be 15 carts, one for each team. I'm guessing when we move those around, and we're working on whether we'll have someone to help you move them, we'll have to have someone performing traffic duty to kind of direct traffic so we don't have too many craft moving around. That's a good question. That's one I'll take back. That we're working on putting a safety brief together for all the teams, but that's an important one for packing purposes.
Yeah, yeah. Just if we need to take steel caps, just let me know now.
So I'm taking a note to take that back and make that a specific question. I'm in the process of building a safety brief right now, looking for input from the folks in Singapore. So that'll be one of the key questions I ask. I'm pretty sure we'll have a rail around the entire floating area, and then there's a rail along the quay wall there, so that we shouldn't need, since it's a public area, we shouldn't need high-vis gear or things like that in a normal situation. The public doesn't, but since we've got so much heavy stuff moving around, I think there's going to be a benefit in thinking about that for some of the competition. We'll if we need it, we'll see if we're going to try and provide as much as we can on that. I'll ask that question if we need it, and maybe only for the people in the vicinity of the area. I know that for the folks, there's going to be allowed one person, I believe it says in the rule, per team on the boat. They will have to wear a personal flotation device, but the boat has that on board. So we'll have one that we pass along.
Guys, if anyone else is still trying to get into the Hangout so they can ask questions, please use the Q&A form to let me know. I know I just had that issue with Chris, and I sent him an invitation. Anyone else still having issues, please let us know. We'll try to get you in. Chris did have some questions before he was able to come in.
So yeah, I just saw that. That's a good question. We're looking to minimize that. That's one of the questions.
You want to tell them what the question was? They can't see.
I'm sorry. There was a question on the Q&A list. I forgot it doesn't show up. Do you know roughly how long it will take the forwarder to get the shipment through customs? That is one of the questions we've already asked. And it's going to depend on how much gear there is to ship and what type of gear you're shipping. So if you have anything that you know is going to be, so the teams, I'm hoping, have done the research and figured out some things that may be difficult to get in. This is the point of contact that we're going to provide will help you determine that as well. And so that that answer is not known in a general sense, but we'll be able to work with the teams. If they have any specific items that look like they'll take longer, we may have to work with you to have you ship it sooner rather than later. So that's a question as you get your list of what you want to take together that we'll have to work through. It'll be more of a case-by-case basis.
You want to continue?
Any other questions on the shipping right now? So yeah, so the next thing we want to talk about is the rules update. The rules update's been consuming a lot of our time in the last couple of months, trying to get a lot of details worked out, take lessons learned from other people and other tasks, other competitions. So there's a lot of little changes in it, a couple significant ones. One of the things I'm going to bring up before the question comes up is it does reference a scoring rubric a couple times. That is about 80 to 90% ready. We just have a couple little things we need to finalize before we can put that out there to kind of close a couple things that have conflicted. It drove a little bit of the changes to the rules, and so it's a lot of hints at it in the rules. It is imminently due, but it starts giving you some idea of what we're looking at. I fielded and I answered a couple questions on the forum about an hour ago, just before we started. Someone had already posted, and so I'm hoping. I think that was it you, Chris, that was posting? Did I get answers to you? Did I understand that? Okay, good. So that's good for all the teams to look at. It had some very good questions that hit some key points that we've been thinking about as well, and so that should be out there already for everyone to see. And I'll go ahead and open the forum at this point. If you want, I can step through the 5 tasks and some of the changes, or I can let you just start posting questions. I'll go ahead and so I've got my copy of the rules here. I'll go ahead and just quickly hit the high points. It won't be everything because there were a lot of little changes. I'll try to get everything that was the key pieces. The biggest one we've already mentioned is the dates. We've managed to get an extra day on site for the teams. I can give you one piece of information that's outside of the rules, actually, that just occurred to me. We know that the venue that the AVSI Foundation's been working with for lodging. They've been talking to the Conrad Hotel, which is a Hilton property. I believe the rate they got was in the $3 to $340 range, Singaporean dollars, but I haven't seen the final paperwork, so I'm not sure. That gives you at least some kind of ballpark for lodging. I know teams have been looking at that. From what I've heard, they finally signed the contract yesterday. There was a bit of a delay on getting the contract signed from the hotel, so that will be, now that it's been signed, it's here for final signature, and then we'll be able to post that. So I just wanted to throw that out there before I forgot. But so as you know, the competition is going to be Marina Bay. That hotel, and there are several others nearby that are a short walk to the Marina Bay facility where we'll be working. There's a grandstand there that you've seen in some of the pictures. We'll be operating in 2 areas. There'll be tents for the teams on the floating platform, the soccer pitch, as well as areas underneath the grandstand. So and this is a little bit of a sneak preview for the orientation, but with some of the heavy machinery, heavy work you might end up doing will have to be under the grandstand on the concrete platform. The rest can be on the floating dock, where you'll have closer access to the water and to the cranes. So that's what's shown on the pictures there. The exact layout is still being worked out. So the tent layout that's on there is notional. It may not be final, but it does have the 2 courses listed. We've got the practice area with a little more definition. We'll have the 4 tasks. We'll have the docking task, the light buoy task, the acoustic pinger task, and the obstacle avoidance task. We'll have obstacles in the obstacle avoidance area of the practice session. So it'll be section 4 quadrants. Each one vessel will be allowed in each at most, and then we'll have the 2 course actual competition courses. Where teams can practice and do competition runs later in the week. And so what we've got is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday will be practice time for the teams, where there won't be any points earned or anything. Moving into Thursday and Friday and Saturday, there'll be opportunities for teams to earn points to qualify for the final round. We'll have enough time slots for each team to have at least 1 slot on one of the courses during that time, and then on each of those days is what we're going for, and then the rest of it will be open practice time, first come, first served basis. And so looking at the well, I'll start with the land-based team test.
On the open practice thing, what's going to be the time limit? Is it 1 hour, half hour?
So we're working up a schedule for that. Initially, I'm planning to allow anywhere from half an hour to an hour. I haven't finalized that yet. Some of that will probably be done. We'll adjust a little bit on site depending on how it's working. The launch and recovery of the vehicles will be one of the key things. There's a dedicated crane for the the practice area that we're securing, and 2 cranes, 1 for each of the main courses. If we can keep those running efficiently, we can move very quickly, and it tends to be a little fluid for the practice time. And that's intentional. If a team comes in and has a problem, they need to pull out of the water early. If the next team is ready, they can go in early, and they still have their time slot, but they can, potentially, at least that's the current plan, is they'll still have their time slot. But if the next team is ready a little bit early, they might get a little extra practice time in. So there'll be some fluidity to it, because teams will have problems, or teams will have issues that come up, or some teams just, I've seen before in other competitions where I've seen one in the last couple of years where for some reason no one was ready on the first day to go in the water, so one team ended up with 3 or 4 hours in the water because they just signed up. When their time was up, no one else had signed up, so they were able to sign up again. The way we normally do it for an event like this would be that you're allowed to sign up for 1 time slot. You're not allowed to sign up for multiple at a time. But when your time is up, you're allowed to, if there's an open slot, you can immediately sign up for another one. If it happens to be the next one, then you continue it. So there's some flexibility there, and that's designed to give as much time as possible to teams in the water. I'm leaning towards 1 hour time slots. That may adjust depending on, because I think that's the most useful time. But I think that'll adjust as teams use it. And so I'm going to step back for a second from the water. One of the key areas is the land-based tasks. That's an important element that often gets forgotten. So some of the key just general engineering skills is the ability, if you've got an idea, you've got to be able to present it, both in writing and in a real presentation in front of the judges. So this is, or your supervisors when you're in the real world. And it's something that I know I always forgot about when I was in college. And I fortunately had a professor who didn't let me forget about it very often. So the website, the journal paper, which is a technical journal paper, and the presentation for the judges is going to be a key aspect. And so we've set that up so that the teams that have the highest scores at the end of that part of the round. So so a key aspect of that, the date for the website and for the journal paper has been added and updated. So we're looking at October 6th for submission of the journal paper. It used to be the 13th. This gives the judges a little more time to prepare and review and provide their feedback on those papers. And that'll be part of the scoring. So the points from that land-based judging, so that's the journal paper, the website, the on-site presentation, which includes an opportunity for the judges to interact with the teams, interview and look at the craft and ask a lot of questions. That will be the team scores from that will be used to prioritize which teams have first chance to pick during the qualifying session. So that question has been raised. Sorry, Jonathan, you had a question about the copyright status. I've raised that question. It's under review. They're going to get an answer to me hopefully very soon. It had to be passed up. I don't expect they're going to require copyright status, but just based on past history. But I want to make sure I get a confirmation before saying that. So I did ask, and it of course went to the lawyers, who will take some time to respond.
We'll find out sometime this year, hopefully.
But yeah, so make sure you focus on, spend some time on those. All that will be in English, and that's part of the competition, is to practice that. And so that we want to see the whole team there. We want to see interaction. We want to see the teams understanding what they're doing and things like that. And so that's part of what's taking some time on the rubric, is we're trying to put some details in there so you know what you're being graded on. And what you're being scored on. So that's taken a little bit of time, and we're trying to get some coordination between the 5 nations judges to facilitate that and make sure we're all on the same page. But yeah, so that will be used, like I said, for prioritizing who gets their time slots. And as you guys do the practice, you'll realize different times of day have different advantages in Singapore. Especially, and I don't know the weather patterns for October yet. I've heard that it's a time of weather change where sometimes they start to get afternoon storms, so lighting conditions and weather conditions may affect it.
I just noticed. Did you see what's in the background of Chris's
video feed? I can see your USB back there. Pretty nicely equipped.
It's a good background for your video feed there.
I'll have to get one of those to put in the background. Um, so one of the things that that we've got is that was modified a tiny bit. Just before task 1 in the rules there, on line 151. Basically, we're going to be timing. It's the time. What's going to be timed has changed a little bit. So originally, we were going to time the entrance and exit gate, the start and end gate rather, for task 1, as well as the obstacle course. Now it's just going to be the start gate, task 1, and it's going to be the overall execution of the entire mission. But teams can only get bonus points for early return to the finish line if they attempt all 5 tasks. So teams that just kind of do one and skip to the end, not eligible for that bonus. So just be thinking about that as part of your strategy planning. That's one thing that's just kind of mentioned just before the task 1. And so task 1 is going to be timed, and I've got some details on how we're going to measure that time in there. That one really didn't change much. Are there any questions on that? That one pretty much stayed as is. It's a pretty simple task, but the key is every time you make an attempt at the autonomous run, you've got to do that task first. If you don't complete that task, you cannot continue to any of the other tasks. And I think the only detail we added to that one was that you need to complete it without contacting the buoys. So contact with the buoys means you got to start that one over. So that's one of the refinements we added.
We have one quick question on the speed gates. Is there going to be any setup in change in setup between runs? Like, are they going to be, is speed gates going to be made longer, or set up like off angle, or whatever? Are they going to stay the same setup each time?
We're not planning to make any changes to that yet, but it is on the water. Things move. There'll be some
other boats hit it,
and a boat might hit it, move it a little bit. We're not going to necessarily reset every time, but we will be providing the GPS points for the for aspects of that for that field. It's the 4 corners of it. It's not the actual buoy positions, but you'll be able to detect it within that area, and it will stay with the same model, red right return for for the Marine Convention. So.
You mentioned if you hit it, you have to restart. To get back to the starting position, is that under remote control, or? Yes,
that can be under remote control. Okay. I'm kind of expecting that any team that when they stop their point run or practice, when they stop it, they will probably be driving it back under remote control. Just it's not required, but I'm guessing that'll be the case. Once, well, it may be required if we start seeing issues, but essentially when you're on autonomous control, there's no interaction. If you take control of it manually, it automatically stops your point collection. And that's where it is, and you have to start your run over to start collecting points again. There's no pause in between. Once you start, all 5 tasks have to be, or whatever task you choose to attempt have to be done autonomously. And a lot of that, the judges will make the call on site based on safety and other conditions as appropriate. Weather, things like that may affect. If there's lightning in the area, they'll scrub a run, things like that. So, there's no other question on task 1. I'll go to task 2. This is where we had some of the most significant changes. We restructured the task quite a bit. Some of the same elements are there, but we've set it up as a 4-quadrant setup. We'll have a buoy, color buoy in each of those quadrants for this area. So we'll have the 4 GPS positions for the overall search area, and then there'll be a buoy in the quadrant. So it'll be just evenly divided. No odd shapes or sizes. Just kind of divided by 4. And so the teams are required to report the buoy color in the quadrant where the active pinger is located. So the field is big enough that you should be able to do that within reason, so that's one of the primary objectives. Another one is to also teams can choose to report also the latitude longitude of the pinger, which is similar to what we had before, and the depth of the pinger from the surface, depending if they can calculate that. So that's additional options for points. So there's 3 ways to earn points on this task. and one of those pingers will be active during each run. And the pingers between the practice area and the two courses will be deconflicted time-wise and frequency-wise.
Just for clarification, each of the pingers will be the same frequency, although only one will be on at a time. Is that true?
In each field.
In each field, yes.
Yes, yeah, in each field. Sorry, yes, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
All the pingers in each field, in a single field, will be the same frequency.
And we'll know our frequency prior to the start of mission.
Correct. That'll be one of the things we post on the daily update.
Yeah. We'll have a board of all the aspects of the day, and that'll be one of the aspects that's published at the beginning of the day.
And my plan is, and we'll get to that when we get down to the bottom, but I'm going to have a morning technical directors meeting and an evening one. The intent there is in the evening I can say, hey, here's what the plan is for tomorrow, so teams can work on it overnight if they need to and get prepared for it. And also in the morning, and that's also an opportunity. I look forward to getting interactive team feedback. This is what worked, this is what didn't, things like that. And so we can adjust for it and let you know what may have changed for the next day. So I'll get into a little more detail on that a little bit later. But that's the big change to the acoustic pinger section. Now that comes with another change as an artifact is the communications protocol has been modified to take this into account. So the new communications protocol is posted. I also emailed it out. It'll be on the RobotX website as soon as we can get it up there. As soon as the webmaster posts that, but at least you've got a link to it. I shared it through my Google Drive account and and on the email. So the comms protocol has been updated. It now has fields for the color of the buoy and the quadrant, as well as the latitude and longitude, and the depth, which were already there. We are working on the test script for it. We're hoping to have that very shortly. It's just we have to go back and modify it and then do the regression testing. So I'm wondering, do the teams have any problem if that takes us another week or two to get out there? Maybe the 8th of August, is that too late? I'm hoping the comms protocol is a minor thing and a very simple thing to modify.
I saw, well.
It was designed hopefully to be fairly straightforward, but there's always quirks that we don't foresee. So going along with that, what we've also added to the comms protocol is a little bit of a miniature feedback mechanism. It's not necessarily required or going to be locked in as this will determine that everything worked. But we've got a rule in the rules that says only the last message received will be counted towards points, will be considered for points. So we're hoping teams don't spam the system and just overload it. We're looking at a 1 hertz rate still for the rate. Essentially instead of the heartbeat, you could send these report messages. What we're going to do is messages that are not the heartbeat, we plan to echo back via the technical directors network to allow you to know that that's the message that was received. So you'll see what message was received on the other end. And so that's the way we're approaching it. That's described loosely it's described in the comms protocol as well as in the rules. So hopefully we'll be able to address any questions on that as they come up. And so I have 2 questions that I saw pop up. One is, can you send us the specific types of the buoys you'll be using for the color buoys for the acoustic positioning task? We've gotten another set of the polyform buoys. I think we got A1 or A2.
I think they're A2s. That's what we talked about.
A2s that we ended up with?
I thought so.
I think we ended up with, I think they're A2 buoys.
We'll need to get back when we know for sure.
Yeah, we'll have to check those when they get back. They're being shipped here, but I think that's what we ended up with, was a set of A2 buoys of the same polyform as the ones in the obstacle course.
The other question was about the communications protocol.
The IP range for the technical director system.
We don't want to tell you.
Yeah, that hasn't been finalized yet. That's something we're going to set up on site. Is that a significant issue?
Only because a lot of sensors for modern robotics are Ethernet based.
Right.
And so if we set up an IP range on a reserved network and it turns out to be the same as your TD network, we may end up in a situation where we have to change all the IPs on our system to deconflict from what you have.
Okay, so you actually, I was a little worried you're going a different direction with that question, because we've seen this in other competitions where they won't use a separate Ethernet adapter to talk to the TD network. They'll use the same internal network their boat uses. So then all their sensors that have IP addresses will start conflicting with field equipment that share the same IP address. So it sounds like you guys have thought of that. You plan on a separate network, but now you want to make sure that the separate network has a different unique address. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's my understanding. So the way I am foreseeing the situation for us is we'll have an internal wired network which has got our sensors hooked up to it, and we'll have a separate Ethernet interface on a separate routed network. And basically that will then talk to the TD. So we'll only route out TD-related stuff related to the communications protocol.
Okay.
But that does mean that they do need to be separate ranges. If we don't have them on separate ranges, it would potentially conflict right up to possibly losing sensors or losing control of the vehicle.
Okay, so what we'll do is I'm taking a note to go back and revisit the technical directors network and see if we can specify a set of ranges.
Yeah, we can do that.
IP addresses to use.
We hadn't thought of it that way. We were worried about the other scenario, but thanks for bringing that up.
Okay, so I've got a note. We've both got a note to look into that. We'll see what we can get together with that and see if we can publish something on that. That's a good question. I hadn't thought about that.
And I have also a question regarding the communication again.
Okay.
I was just wondering if there will be a need for us to somehow, I don't know, query some server or something, if we need to ask for the entry and exit gates, or if you will be giving us, because I didn't get through that too much, if you will be giving us all of these beforehand before we start.
So in the rules, we've got a section near the bottom after the tasks. I mean, it's a very small table. It's line 339, where we're going to provide GPS positions for the boundary corners of each of the 5 tasks.
He was wanting to know if we're doing like Roboboat did, where they get which gates.
And we're not, and so yeah, so we're not planning, and so that's how we're going to have those. We'll have those posted in advance for the teams for the day. The message protocol for the technical directors network is primarily one direction. It's primarily from the boat to the technical directors network. The only message we have going back, I mean, so you have the heartbeat and your reported messages, but your message going back from the technical directors network to the boat will be in the form of just an echo if you send a report for the light buoy or the acoustic pinger task. So there's not a query, back and forth that you're mentioning.
Things like which gates you'll need to go through, you'll know that at the beginning of the day before your boat's on the water. I think that's what you were asking.
Okay, yeah, exactly.
Right.
Thank you.
Right. Yep. And that should be there should be a section in the rules. If it's not there, I'll go ahead and add it back. But that should be specified that all those will be posted and announced at the technical directors meeting, and will be posted on site for the whole day. All right. Any other questions on task 2, the acoustic pinger?
A lot of head shaking.
Okay. So I'll go to task 3 for the symbol and dock. I posted a picture. Has anyone had trouble getting me the pictures from the Singapore trip on the community page? So just let me know, and I'll make sure everyone can get them. We've posted what we think the dock's going to look like. They're finalizing the purchase of that right now. It'll be essentially a floating platform type material, and as soon as we get the part numbers for that, I'll get that published to all of you. The dock will be about 5 meters by I think we had it for 4 meters on the latest version. It was the same as the last version, so it should be large enough. The disk task hasn't really changed so much since the last update. It's all we did was make a couple tweaks to the wording that didn't affect the actual performance or execution of this. So the judges will determine when it actually is in the dock, and that's going to be the scoring rubric that we're trying to publish as well. So, are there any questions on this one? All right. So the light buoy task 4. As you've all hopefully seen by now, the prototype buoy that we built does not look like the one that was in this artist conception that we had here, and that was, we had to draw something while we figured out how to build it. The final light buoy towers are being built right now, and so those will be ready. Again, we had some questions about this last time. It will be the box will be no more than 3 meters above the water surface, and that's give you some kind of upper limit on where you have to scan. It keeps it on the horizon. We did notice, and you saw in some of the pictures, that it keeps it a little closer to the skyline than I had hoped, with all the buildings around. But that's I guess real life is the way I was thinking about it. I mean, that's what craft these USVs are going to have to deal with in the real world. So I'm liking the idea of having it at that level, because it really does
like a marine marker.
Make it a real marine challenge. And that buoy will be somewhere in that box with the GPS coordinates provided. So you will have to locate it too. So I'm expecting most teams to do it by the light bar. And we're going to increase the size of the shade on top of that.
Does that get moved every day?
Say again?
Does it get moved every day?
Moved every day?
It may be. We haven't finalized that yet, but it will likely move on a daily basis.
Okay.
And Jonathan just brought up another good question. Have you resolved the update rate causing striping in the LEDs? Jonathan, have you built your own and used your camera sensors on it and seen the same update rate problem?
We've got the parts, but we haven't finished assembling it yet.
Okay. Because we have had feedback from one team that don't see the same problem, only because they use a slower... They use a slower camera rate than we were using. Mm-hmm. So if you're using... We film that with our cell phones, and our cell phones are trying to get the fastest camera rate they can. But proper image processing sensors. So you need it. If we could get feedback from the teams that this is a problem you're seeing, we'll definitely work to resolve that. But the only feedback we've got so far isn't a problem.
Sorry, who's that?
We're seeing it.
You have?
Okay, so you see it in your sensors? Okay.
Yeah, on our webcams and everything, we're seeing that. So.
Okay, then it's something we'll have to look at to see if we can resolve. I don't know if we'll come up with a resolution.
It's part of the hardware of the system, so it'll be difficult to do. We'll have to look into that.
We're trying to work around it at the moment on the presumption that might be changed, but.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll take a look as well and see what we can come up with. We're trying to close out a couple of things first, but that'll be before we build the final ones. We'll see what we can do.
Just for what it's worth, we've been testing with it as well. We haven't seen the issues. That could be the way we're talking to them is different. Or we're using an embed to talk instead of the Arduino. So I don't think that's a huge deal. But,
okay.
No, unfortunately, the issue is caused by the Arduino driver board itself is scanning the frame rate or the scanning the display pretty slowly. So if your camera can do 30 or 60 frames per second, you'll start to see the lines that are scanning come out as opposed to just a solid color. If you have an embed that's your master controller that's piping the display data, it'd still have the same problem if your camera saw that issue or not.
All right, so I've taken a note about that. We'll see. I mean, we'll look into it, but I mean, right now we need to see. Right now, it seems like it's not as critical yet. We'll see what we can come up with.
Yeah.
But I can't promise anything if whether we can adjust it or not. All right. So that actually made me think of something. So one of the things that I want to make sure is clear in the general way this is approached is teams can they must complete task 1 before they do anything else. Every time they run for scoring. After that, they can the craft is allowed to autonomously decide to skip a task. If it chooses to skip any of those other 4 tasks, you have to continue. You can't go back. So you couldn't go from 1 to 3, then 4, 5, then come back to 2. you've got to do them in sequence. Just remember, once you skip one, you've got to continue on. You can't go back to a previous task. It's in the rules a couple places. I just wanted to reiterate that because I think there was some question about that a little while back, and I think I made it a little more clear in this set of rules, but I wanted to make sure that that was still understood. And if tasks, I got a question. If tasks are skipped, will the vehicle be eligible for bonus points for rapid completion? So no, that was the point at the beginning. That's exactly why we had to add that. Is you have to attempt all 5 tasks to be eligible for that bonus points. So task 5 is detection and avoiding obstacles. Again, at the end of each day or at the beginning of the morning meeting every morning, we'll announce the gate of the day and for the entrance and the exit gate for that that task, and teams will be able to use it then. It'll be the same. We plan for the whole day each of those times. I'm pretty sure we'll change it at a minimum daily. I don't know that we'll change it in the middle of the day, but it will move. The things are tethered. There's going to be a watch circle. The obstacles will move. The buoys will shift a little bit. And so again, that's the real world. So there shouldn't be too much in this area, but you never know. Boats may hit it or bump things. We tried to be a little more clear on what striking an object is and what it means in this update. That's one of the based on questions before. That's some of the things we added to this to kind of clarify that. And the rubric will have a little more detail on what that means when it gets published, hopefully very soon. I think that's the only changes we had to that. And those gates will be somewhere within those 4 corners of the GPS points we give you. They won't necessarily extend all the way to the edge.
So you said the bonus points would only be eligible for teams that made an attempt at every event?
Right.
How would you determine what an attempt was? Because
I knew that question was coming. So that's going to be up to the judges. It has to be a legitimate attempt. That's something that as soon as I said that, I realized I need to add that to the scoring rubric. So that's again, that's one of the pieces of feedback that I'm going to take back and make sure we have it in there. There's going to be a little bit of discretion on that one, but we're going to try and make that as clear as possible. Okay. So the buoys for that are still the same. The next part, the early termination, the ending point hasn't really changed that much. It's changed a little bit. We've kind of tweaked the wording and corrected a couple of things. But remember that the safety judge and the judge's decisions are final. I mean, if they see a safety issue or something that's damaging the course, they will stop it and the points will stop earning, and that's the way it'll be. Teams are encouraged to, if they see something that's going to happen or think something might happen before it does damage to the course or something, another boat, to look into that. I had a question related to that, is if another craft comes into your area and causes your craft to need to be stopped while that one is moved out of the way or has an issue, that's something we're going to have to look at. It's not something that we're hoping to see, but it's a condition we're going to have to work on, and it'll probably be on a case-by-case basis depending on what the situation is. I don't know that it'll stop the clock or not. That's something we have to work out. Our goal is to avoid that rather than have to deal with it. We're coming up with contingency plans, but it does make a mess of the schedule if we end up starting to sliding clocks left and right. So we want to try and keep that as much as possible. And so I expect to see a little more of that early on and a little bit less later on. So we'll have to play that one by ear.
Just on that, if you do need to be recovered, for argument's sake, or need to be towed back, do you need to provide a tow point, or are you just going to try and use the cleats on the front?
So that's actually one of the things that I was about to get to, the system requirements. It's an excellent segue. in the safety requirements section, where it has the vehicle requirements, the second paragraph of the system requirements, we've got a little more clarity. Every craft has to have the lift, clearly identified lift and tow points. I'm pretty sure all the craft came with a lifting harness of some sort. The cranes will be set up to use that. If you have a different harness, you need to provide your own. If that one doesn't work for you, you'll have to provide your own. But yeah, so all the craft have one. The tow points need to be clearly marked. What we put as an option is if you want to put a clearly identified circle around it, white, yellow, whatever is an appropriate color that stands out, mark it very clearly, because the folks on the boat will need to be able to find that quickly and be able to tow it back. The longer it takes them to find those points and while you're being towed back or hooked up, that's your time running out. So be thinking about that as part of your strategy. And the same with the lift points. So that was one of the big things I wanted to mention, because we did add that for some clarity on that. And that's in a couple places in the document now. Then we come to the communications protocol update. One of the new things there is that we've had a lot of questions about the communication, the RF network in the area, the RF environment in the area. We did do some RF measurements. We need to get those out. I forgot about those. I got distracted by, we spent so much time on the rules lately. We'll get that. We started working that into a write-up and kind of a little white paper. We'll put that together and finish that up as soon as possible with basically some pictures of the RF environment. We used a spectrum analyzer to kind of look at that and got to collect some data. Yeah, there's some noise in the area, and once all the teams start setting up their networks, it'll start to build up quickly. We've seen that before in the 2.4 range very quickly. And so just be thinking about that. The heartbeat message, the technical director's network, we're setting up to be as robust as possible with very high gain directional antennas to minimize influence from any distractions from the competition area or from the teams who are working in the practice areas or the team tents. So we've done what we can to minimize it. We're looking at the option of doing repeaters in the courses to kind of provide that, but we're going to. So the heartbeat message is one of the safety features of the vessel. It needs to be demonstrated before the vessel goes in the water every time. And if you look on line 355, we did specify that if we stop receiving the heartbeat message, we're going to consider that the vehicle stopped working, go to manual mode, and stop that run for points. So that's going to be important. And Chris Heckley posted, do we still have to highlight the 2 points if they're stock WAM-V tow points? I would recommend you do it because there will be a lot of distractors on that craft, things you've added to it. We want to make, it may be a very fast-moving situation, something may be quick. They need to be able to very quickly identify those points. I would strongly recommend you do that. So the TD network is not a safety system, but the heartbeat message that we're receiving is what we're using to track the vessel and ensure that everything's working. So we've decided to consider the heartbeat message. While it's not a safety system, we're not going to automatically stop the craft. We are going to tell you to stop the run if we stop receiving that message. Does that make sense, Jonathan? Okay. Yeah. So we're not going to send an abort message over the network. We're just going to tell you, hey, you need to stop it, because we're not receiving. So we can figure out where the problem is.
Will there be a mechanism where we can get a ruling on a safety system or a safety issue beforehand, so we can make the changes before we ship the boat?
Such as?
The question I posted earlier today was talking about like the e-stops shutting off. The e-stops we've got currently shut off the propulsion system.
Right.
If there are like actuators, we don't have one, but like a nodding LiDAR or something, would the e-stop also have to shut that down? So
I was careful about that, and when I answered, so I did post an answer to that one. I saw that one. That was a good question. And I was a little bit tongue-in-cheek with that one, but I mean, if there's something that's going to cause an issue that's going to affect the ability to connect to the craft, to tow it or to lift it, then I will leave that up to the teams. If it's something that you think is going to be damaged while it's moving, while we try to connect to it, you may want to consider shutting it off. The requirement specifically states that the propulsion system has to be disconnected. That's to make the boat dead in the water, it's floating, it's safe for someone to approach. That's our primary objective. If it's going to be a hazard to someone trying to connect to the boat, then yeah, there may be some issues on that. We can handle that on a case-by-case basis if you send something specific about that. And there'll also be a safety inspection on some of the first days of the competition. We'll provide feedback to the team saying, hey, you should consider this. We'll have the folks, the team that's going to be on the boats actually working with you. They will be able to provide input saying, hey, this is dangerous, this isn't going to work. And so that'll give you some time to work on it. So again, the safety judge is going to verify, that's item 2 on the safety list there, on the safety requirements, that they'll verify every time you launch. They're going to check to make sure all of that is still working and it's still there. And that's to make sure that something hasn't broken or stopped on the way and that everything is still going the way it needs to. That includes the kill switch. Because we've seen times where everything works, they make one small change, and now the kill switch doesn't work. One wire gets knocked loose. So we want to make sure everything works before it goes in the water. We actually saw that fairly recently, where one of our judges or kayakers ended up getting almost getting knocked over by the boat because the kill switch wasn't working and it wasn't tested before it went in. So we're going to be really careful about that. Again, just make sure you consider all the safety things, hazards for hands and feet, anything getting near the props or the moving parts. It ties into your question there, Chris, for the moving parts. And then the radio frequency, I'm hoping all the teams have done a lot of work looking at that. Oh yeah, before I go on, I guess it's a question. Do the motors need to be operated on land? Some motors may require water cooling. That's a good question. We may ask you to just start them and hit the kill switch quickly. Will that be a bad thing, or do they need to be in the water to even run? So that's a good. I mean, I guess water jets might need to be in the water to run. We may have to adjust on a case-by-case basis in that case and say, hey, we'll set it in the water, hold it on the crane, and just see what happens. Kind of keep it steady. We may have to adjust that one very specifically. If that's the case, that you're thinking it'll need to be in the water, I would recommend you have additional, besides the lift points, I would recommend you have additional points where we can put a couple people on shore with a line to hold it, to secure it. Almost like a bollard pull rigging. Yeah, something like that, just so it can be held in place while we do that test. So that's one I hadn't thought of. That's a good one. And then, but for the RF equipment, coming back to that, I'm putting together a list of items I'd like to get information on from all the teams. Each team will be able to provide that independently, so that directly to me and to Bill, and we'll compile all that. We're going to provide that to the facilitator in Singapore to help us have higher confidence that the radio systems you're bringing in won't have an issue and won't need any special permissions. I know all the teams are responsible for doing that on their own. I'm going to see what I can do to help add a little extra confidence there. So that's a bonus. It's not going to necessarily be guaranteed, but we're going to do everything we can to make sure that you guys can run when you get there. So that's keep an eye out for that. It's in your interest to feed that information back. And again, it's the towing lift points and any safety considerations. The safety judge's decision is final on that. That's not our choice. That's the venue. And you do have to pass the safety inspection before you go in each time. Weight and size hasn't really changed. The boat can carry what it can carry, and we're going to get cranes that can lift that amount. I think the rest of it is pretty much. We haven't really done much in this other section. We did clarify that one team member has to be the team captain, and that's the one person that will be we interact with. If 5 other people are yelling, "Hey, stop it!" It's the team captain who has to make that call. We'll be clear that that's the person we're going to listen to and be responsible for it. All right. So the planned sequence of events is where we had a lot of changes with the extra day. I can go day by day, or I can just kind of go in generalities. and I know we're longer than we originally planned, and Bill was just pointing out we started a little bit late, so I'm willing to go a little bit longer, as long as Bill's okay with it.
My wife that I worry about.
Okay. No, hopefully your wife won't cause too much pain for you. But we're near the end here. I just wanted to kind of go through the practice days. We're going to start sometime on Sunday, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday have those as practice days. We'll have open sign up for those on a first come first served basis. Just you get one slot at a time. You can't sign up for a big block. But during the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday practice days, the judges will be doing their land-based judging. That's providing feedback on the papers, the websites, and also doing the teams will have to present and do their interviews for the craft. So just be ready for that. We're going to assign those time slots. I've got a lottery system that I'm going to use during the orientation sessions. Teams will know that on Sunday. So that's why that's mandatory for all the teams. We'll assign that and get that selected. And that's mandatory for all team members. Anyone who's there with the team that Sunday orientation, because that's where we'll say, hey, here's what the safety rules are, here's what the requirements are, here's what you're allowed to do and not allowed to do, where you're allowed to go, where you're not allowed to go. There's a lot of things that for that facility we want to make sure we honor their requirements, their rules. The other meetings, the ones every morning and evening, which would be hopefully very short, kind of get you updated on what's changed, what hasn't. At a minimum, the team captains need to be there. Anyone else is welcome. It will be air conditioned. I guess that'll be nice. Because it does get hot over there, so just be thinking about that for your equipment. And I don't think the temperature range changes all year. I've been tracking the weather since I started taking over this project, and it's the same temperature range pretty much all year.
I just think they don't bother updating the weather. We're there.
It's a very easy job for meteorologists, I guess. High in the 90s, low in the 70s, and 20% chance of rain.
Mm-hmm.
So the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday are fairly similar. Any questions on that part of the competition? So at the end of the land-based judging, the teams will be able to pick their qualification times. We'll announce those on the Wednesday night meeting, so it'll be a little bit longer to allow teams to do that. We'll have that posted at the technical director's tent the whole time. And then, so we'll reserve the morning probably until 1 o'clock. I was playing with some of the times. It'll probably be 1300 when we release it, those two courses for practice time again. And we're looking at days probably around 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Total, but on water from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. is what we're looking at, just based on the sunset sunrise times. Just that realistically, that's probably what we'll end up with, weather permitting. And the qualifying rounds are Thursday, Friday, Saturday. At the end of Friday, we'll have a the end of Saturday, we'll have a meeting with all the participants, where we'll be able to announce which teams qualified for the final round. The judges will make that decision and inform me. I don't have input on that. I won't even be in that discussion. So the judges will make their decisions based on the point spread and where a logical break is or what they're able to produce, have in there. And Sunday will be the final round. We're working on a bonus challenge for teams that didn't qualify for the final round, which will be an interesting one, which will also be available for additional prize money. So that's in the works. That'll be a surprise on the day of. So we'll see how we do that. That's a couple options we're playing around with.
I'm voting for hula hoop contest.
Hula hoop contest would be interesting. Might want to start practicing. No, it'll hopefully be something on the technical side, maybe even using the craft. We haven't figured that out yet, for sure. And then we'll have an awards ceremony and kind of a nice dinner for everyone to relax and talk to each other without having to worry about sharing secrets on Sunday night. Monday, there will be some requirements. We'll set some time limits. Everything has to be packed up and ready to ship. Teams will be responsible for arranging return shipment. The facilitator, the freight forwarder, will be available to help with that in advance, so just be thinking about that as part of your shipping plan. A little bit of information on the scoring at the bottom. The details will really be in the scoring rubric. So I'll open that up to questions. That's kind of a long walkthrough of this, but someone suggested a change log, and I've started to do that, but we'd already made a lot of changes before I put that in there, so I probably missed a lot on this version. Any other questions? I haven't seen any coming in.
Quick question. Is there any particular reason you guys decided to do static gates every for the obstacle avoidance as opposed to doing the dynamic ones like RoboBoat had?
What do you mean? You mean changing it per
where the vehicle
run?
has to request which gate to go through?
Well, one of the things we were worried about was the comms traffic back and forth with the communication traffic on the RF side requesting it on the fly. We played around with the idea of assigning it to each team on a case-by-case basis when they run. One of the thought processes behind that was then, how difficult does one version become than the other? Because the buoys will be moving on a daily basis. The obstacle buoys, and will be moving on a daily basis, and they'll also be moving during the runs because the weather will change, wind will change, things like that. So the intent is to keep the gate the same and move other things around so that you can't pre-program a path through it. So we took a different approach. It's a lot less network intensive, and we didn't like the complexity involved with the back and forth, knowing that it's a rough RF environment. Especially once we get another 15 teams worth of RF on site. Any other questions? I didn't see any in the chat window either.
No questions.
Okay.
They all need the copy or they're ready.
Raise a point of clarification. Just on page 17, line 398.
Okay.
It's just more the wording. So the sentence starts, participants must be enrolled. And that should only be student participants, right? Because if you've got faculty...
Oh, yes, that's correct, yes.
Yeah.
That's a good point. We'll make a note to change that.
Just a further query about that. If a full-time student was working on the competition and then graduated before that, and then is no longer working on the vehicle afterwards, do they still count as a student?
I think the way we've got that written, they must be enrolled as students during the competition. That was the intent for that. Is that a problem?
Yep. I don't think it's going to be an issue because we're still well under our quota for non-students.
Okay.
But it just means that a person who was a student while working on the vehicle, because he made a significant contribution, will probably end up having to be listed as a non-student because he graduated early.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Are we distinguishing the team makeup at the time of the competition?
Yeah, I don't think we're actually distinguishing it. You're talking about in terms of publications or anything like that, or?
Oh no, he was an undergrad.
Okay.
Right. Is he going to be at the competition?
Is he going to be?
No, going to be. He's actually got a day job. He's working for a living.
Okay.
So I don't see a problem with his name on the journal.
Yep.
But
yeah, I don't see a problem with his name on the journal paper.
Yep. I'm just pointing out that but the period of the competition is the period leading up to the competition, not the period of the competition as in the 1 week in Singapore.
The intent is for the 1 week in Singapore for that. That's what we're looking at. For they should be enrolled during that period, that 20 through 26. Yep. That was the intent behind that statement.
Yep. Okay, and that's what I'm just pointing out, that by a literal application of that, this person would be in a 1 quarter non-full-time student quota.
Right, right.
But if he's not there at the competition, is he part of the quota?
Well, he's not at the competition, so.
Okay.
That's a good question. If they're at the competition, I don't know how that would work. We'll have to think about that.
Well, we're not taking everyone who worked on the boat to Singapore. We're only taking a subset, of course.
Oh, why not? You should bring all of them.
Okay.
No, I understand completely. I know what it costs to go there and back, both in monetary sense and in it's pretty exhausting. It's a long trip from here.
Yep.
All right. Any other questions? All right. What we'll do is we'll go ahead and close this one out, give you a little more time to look at the rules. Will there be tools on site? So that's a good question, Jonathan. Will there be tools on site? we are not bringing tools for maintaining the craft, and teams willing to bring what they need. That said, Bill and I did find an interesting electronics store that had just about everything, mostly rebuilt and torn apart and rebuilt again. It's a 6-story area there that had all kinds of interesting things.
If you want a slightly used motherboard, we know the place.
Yeah, there were a lot of slightly used motherboards.
Sure. And I'm sure we can do a bit of horse trading between teams if necessary.
I encourage that, actually. That'd be great. I mean, I love to see what teams work together. And the only caveat there is the MAR is going to be on site with another WAM-V vehicle.
With some spares,
and,
right?
and a limited number of spares to help, and we'll be able to do some help with the team. So they may have some things. I don't know what they'll have and what they won't have. So come prepared to be self-sufficient.
And then be pleasantly surprised.
Power and batteries. We had a failed battery. We had to go on. That's how we found the electronics place. We had to
battery charger.
Oh, sorry, battery charger. And we had to pick up. We had to go hunt for one.
He was very enthusiastic about his things.
Sorry, I'm going to sign off, so I'll say goodbye.
Thank you very much. We'll sign off as well. We're hopefully is 2 weeks from now a good time to do it again, if we can set that up.
Yep.
Okay, we'll publish a notice as soon as we figure that out. It might end up being 3 weeks. I have a prior commitment on that day.
He's frozen.
So, all right. Thank you all.
Bye, guys. This picture's frozen.